Did Baker Mayfield get too much blame for a close win against the Atlanta Falcons, or did he get not enough credit for pulling out the victory in the first place? We dive deeper into Baker Mayfield's Week 14 performance on this episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to this episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for making Locked On Bucs your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget that you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you're getting your podcast, and you can become a Locked On Bucs insider, get text messages, news, updates, analysis, and more from James Yarcho, my partner in crime. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs to sign up for that today. I'm David Harrison, credential member of the media covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for BucsGameDay.com, a part of Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation. We are here with you every Monday through Friday, along with our everydayers and everydayers. We want to share our appreciation for your continued support for the program. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. On today's episode of Locked On Bucs, we're talking about Todd after Coach Bowles' Monday press conference and stashing and trashing a few things, including James is no longer trashing Chris Godwin's targets. But first, how good or bad was Baker Mayfield on Sunday? I have been covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in some way, shape, or form since 2015. Jameis Winston's rookie year was my rookie year. And since then, I have come to learn for a fact that Buccaneers fans love one thing just as much maybe as they love winning, and that is arguing about quarterbacks. And that's not at all a dig or a slight. It is just an observation. It's part of what makes you guys great. It's part of what makes you guys frustrating at times, but it is part of what makes this fan base what this fan base is, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. But there always seems to be a little bit of a slant, if we're being honest, towards a guy, towards a school, towards something else. So even with Brady, there were Bucs fans who absolutely hated the signing, refused to celebrate it even after the Super Bowl win. Don't get me wrong, like didn't really criticize it, but just kind of got quiet. You know what I mean? Then when the team failed to make a whole lot of noise in his last season, that's when those people started making a little bit of noise and patting themselves on the back for knowing that it would never work out. Personally, I would take one Super Bowl win and two non-Super Bowl seasons and 3 years with a quarterback in any stretch of time, but that's just me. It was no surprise then that there were some who felt we didn't criticize Baker Mayfield enough. And then there were some who thought we put too much criticism on Baker Mayfield following the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' close win over the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. And I will tell you from a journalistic standpoint, if we're getting criticized for giving too much credit or blame, and we're getting criticized for not giving enough credit or blame, pretty much means we're driving it right down the middle and staying even keel as we're supposed to. But I decided that with all of the conversation, I wanted to turn on the All 22 and give you all an honest review of Baker Mayfield's play, as honest as I can give you. And I'm sure that nobody will question my integrity or claim that I have some sort of slant or I'm violating some sort of ethical treatment in doing this. So here we go. Basically what I did is I went through the tape, and I'm going to give you a as much of a play-by-play breakdown of Baker Mayfield as I can. We are limited by time on this episode. We do have some other things to get to, but I'm going to give you just the straight up analysis. There's no opinion here whatsoever. Mayfield's final stat line: 14 for 29, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns, sacked 1 time, 3 carries, 3 yards, 1 touchdown. In my fantasy league, that would have got you 23.5 points, which is solid. You take that any week of the season if you can get that out of your quarterback. But let's get into the nitty gritty. Here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to assign a plus or a minus for every single play. No pushes. We're picking sides here. There's no tie. There's no draw. And for every 2 pluses, he's getting a number bump. For every 2 minuses, he's getting a number drop. Now, I may have to finish this in segment 2. We will see. I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to get through this in one segment. Touchdowns are a full number bump. Turnovers are a full number drop. So we're starting at 3. Baker Mayfield scored 3 touchdowns. He had no turnovers. So boom, 1, 2, 3. We're already at 3. An equal amount of good and bad plays would give him 0. That's not average. That just means you had a very equal number of good and bad plays. How you accept quarterback play, I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm just going to give you the raw data. So the more we get over 0, the better he did. The more we get below 0, the worse he did. It's pretty simple in that avenue. Again, how far above 0 you need it to be considered good, that's on you. How far you need it to be below 0, that's on you. Since this is the first time we're doing this, we really don't have a baseline. We don't have a benchmark. We don't have an average. So you got to take it with a grain of salt as we do this whole thing. So let's start with the runs because there's only 3 of them. And so they're going to be easier to break down. I can go a little bit more in depth. And, we can get a little bit of a score going into the pass plays coming up here. So the first run of the game for Baker Mayfield came on a 3rd and 4. They're at the Atlanta 39-yard line. I'm giving this play a plus for Baker Mayfield. It's a scramble play. It's not a designed run. It is a scramble. He doesn't miss any wide open receivers, any open receivers in general. Gets out of a sack after tight end Cade Otton gets beat on the outside by a pass rusher, which is good. It's good that he gets beat on the outside, by the way. You never want to get beat inside. Getting beat on the outside allows Baker to step up, shed the contact. He ends up gaining 2 yards. Not a successful play, right? 3rd and 4, successful play would be a first down. So it's not a successful play, but it is a good play by Baker Mayfield, given the circumstances. That's a plus. So we're at a 3+. We have the 3 touchdowns, 1, 2, 3. Now we got a plus. So it's a 3+. If he gets another plus, then we move up to 4. That's how this is going to work, right? Run number 2, second one at the Atlanta one, it's a read option. And honestly, he should have given that thing to Rachaad White. If he's reading that defensive end the way he's supposed to, he gives that thing to Rachaad White. Rachaad White likely gets into the end zone with much less trouble, but Baker decides to keep it. Not a great decision. He is able, however, to shed that edge defender, Caden Ellis. He out-muscles Jesse Bates for the touchdown, which is really impressive. Bad read, good result. So you get a plus for that. We're at a 4. Run number 3. It's 1st and 10. Tampa Bay 9 is not really a run, but it's counted as a run. Like that's what the NFL Jesus folks decided to count it as a run. 1st and 10, Tampa Bay 9. It's a bad snap by Robert Hainsey. Good reflexes by Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's about as tall as I am. And I can tell you that getting up and batting down a pass or a snap like that, not easy to do. Saves the ball from sailing over his head. Rachaad White ends up picking it up, doing what he can with it. That gets a plus as well because, again, we're looking at just Baker. Obviously, the play is not successful. Obviously, the snap is not successful. The play gets dead or is basically aborted right off the bat. But we like what Baker did on the play, so it gives you a plus. So now we start off at 3 touchdowns after 3 runs. Each of them is a plus. So we go from 3 to 3+, then we go from 3+ to 4. Now we got 4+ after the 3 runs. That is how we're going to do it. So those are the run plays. We're done with those. Now we're going to dive into the passes, and then we're going to stash and trash like we do every single week. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. You shouldn't have to worry where you're buying your tickets to your next big event. And GameTime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, they've got it all, and it's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. GameTime is the only ticketing app that gives you the complete peace of mind you need with your purchase. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets, and GameTime even has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after some events start. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen, your first view today and every day. Thanks for coming through on a regular basis like you do. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right. We can't give you every single pass plus or minus because we just don't have time, but I will give you some of the highlights, some of the lowlights, and explain some of this. So we were at a 4+ when we come out of the runs, right? So first pass of the game is a plus, so we're up to 5 there. Pass number 2 is also a plus. This one I remember watching it in the game real time. The first read on this play is to Chris Godwin running on a seam on the right side of the field with a trail defender and a safety coming over top on either side of him. Jesse Bates is splitting deep coverage on Godwin and Evans, both on the right side of the field. And honestly, it looks enticing. When you look at it first blush, you kind of say that thing is open, but Mayfield wisely checks it down for a positive gain on 2nd and 8 to bring up 3rd and 5. If he tries to squeeze that thing in there, best case scenario, Chris Godwin is going up for a contested catch. He's getting hit in the air, and that thing could go any which way. So he makes a smart play and he gains the yards and he sets up a very, very manageable 3rd and 5. It was a very smart play by Baker Mayfield. Gets a plus there. Pass number 3 also gets a plus. Pass number 4 gets a plus. So first 4 passes of the game, we're throwing pluses on all of those, including the 4th pass of the game, which was actually an incompletion, but not because of Baker Mayfield. Baker makes a good read, good throw, puts it right where Trey Palmer needs it with that defender in coverage. Trey just has to come down with the ball and doesn't. So 4 pluses. To start us off, first minus of the game for Baker Mayfield is the 5th pass of the game. It's 1st and 10. Evans is running a quick hitter inside release against AJ Terrell. He wins, but Baker Mayfield is late on the pass, doesn't get it in front of Evans enough, instead throws it up the field a little bit, and that allows AJ Terrell to get a hand in and break it up. So that is Baker's first negative of the game. Pass number 6 is also a minus. He's got his primary open for a left boundary deep ball, but he passes up to throw up the middle of the field. It's just crowded because both Evans and Godwin are right next to each other, which means someone ran a wrong route, and that's not Mayfield's fault, but it is Baker Mayfield's fault that he threw it into that much traffic instead of hitting his boundary receiver, who was single covered, had space up the field. Doesn't guarantee that it's going to be completed, but that's where you need to go with the ball. So that's his next minus. Then from there, we got 4 pluses, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all pluses. Pass number 10 is a minus for blocking on Cade Otton, but that's not Baker Mayfield's fault. So we got 4 pluses in a row. Then we got a negative play on pass number 11. He takes a deep shot to Chris Godwin that needs to be on his outside shoulder. He leaves it on the inside shoulder. So that's a bad mark for Baker there. Pass number 12, he was just slow in his progression, leads to a pressure, leads to a rollout, incompletion on 3rd down. And that is kind of a string of negatives in there. Play number 13 is another negative. The decision to come back to O'Keefe, great. Love it. Absolutely love it. The minus is because the ball was way too far behind a guy like O'Keefe. He tried to fastball it for no reason. And honestly, I saw a few plays where Baker was just trying to put so much mustard on it that he cost himself some accuracy. So that's another negative play there. Play 14 a minus, play 15 or pass 15 is a minus. He passes up a wide open Mike Evans, goes somewhere else with the ball, comes out incomplete. Pass number 16 is a plus, 17 is a minus, pass 18 is the plus, screen pass touchdown to Rachaad White. 19 is a plus. So after 19 passes, we got 10 passes left to get to 29. We've gone from a 5, which is where we started, to a 4.5 or a 4 plus because of that string of negative plays there specifically from where was it? Pass number 11 to pass number 17. Out of those plays, we only had 1 positive. The rest of those were negative. So we entered the last 10 passes of the game for Baker Mayfield at a 4 plus when we started or we're at a 5 rather when we started at a 4 plus. So still gaining, but not as much as you would like. Pass number 20 is a positive play. Pass 21 is a negative play. Pass up a wide open Mike Evans again, 8 yards downfield this time for a deep shot to Cade Otton, who was on a linebacker, which if that's a running back or receiver, I got it, but that's a linebacker on Cade Otton, and the linebacker's in phase. This isn't a route where Cade Otton just has this dude beat. It's a very bad decision for Baker Mayfield to pass that up. Pass number 22 is another minus. Had 32 opportunities. I'm being facetious, but he had a bunch of opportunities to either hit the flat, which is where his progression was, or hit Evans, who's wide open from the right hash, but he waits so long and throws it so far across the field that he ends up leaving Mike Evans out of bounds. That's a bad play by Baker Mayfield. Pass number 23 is a positive. 24 is a minus. Passes up his primary drag route, looks right at it. It's wide open. Decides to throw high to Chris Godwin in traffic. Almost gets Godwin's clock cleaned. It falls incomplete. Just not a good decision there from Baker. 25, 26, 27 are also all minuses. 27 specifically is way too far outside when Godwin breaks in. Possible that Chris Godwin ran the wrong route, but I don't know that, so I have to communicate off the play that we see. That's why he gets a minus for it. Pass number 28 is a positive. It's the best throw that I've honestly ever seen Baker Mayfield make. Running out of time, 3rd and 10, down 3 points, throws to a spot that not only connects with Chris Godwin, but literally throws him open. When you talk about throwing a guy open, there's no better example of doing that than that play right there. It's an absolutely beautiful play by Baker Mayfield. A big plus on that one. Pass 29 is a plus. It's a touchdown pass to Cade Otton that ends up getting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the win. So after the passes, we get out of the runs, we're at a 4 plus. We start the passes, we go from 4 plus to 5 before the last 10 passes. After the last 10 passes, we are back down to a 4. So he's got a 4 overall there. Remember, we have already counted the touchdowns. So don't come at me and say, well, you got to count those touchdowns. We did count the touchdowns. The sack. You might think that a sack is going to be a minus for the quarterback, especially when the clock has been ticking a little bit, but actually that's a really good play by the Atlanta Falcons defense. I give Baker Mayfield a plus for the sack. Now, the broadcast pointed out that Trey Palmer came open at one point. Well, so did Mike Evans. The problem is, by the time Trey Palmer comes open, Baker Mayfield's already under duress, trying to avoid multiple Falcons who are trying to sack him. When Evans comes open, Baker Mayfield's not there in the progression. If a dude is open, but the quarterback's not there in progression, it doesn't matter that he's open, and you can't hold that against the quarterback. Mayfield does all you can to escape and turns a 5-yard sack into a 2-yard sack. That's really all you can do. Evans should have honestly been the primary there. So again, I don't know if Canales called the play and called the primary elsewhere. I don't know if Mayfield made that decision on his own. Whoever made the decision for Mike Evans on the drag to not be the primary, to me, that's where the play went wrong. I don't know who made that call, so I have to give Baker Mayfield the credit for escaping some of the pressure that he did and not ding him for Mike Evans not being the primary, because I don't know if that's a decision that he made or not. So at the end of all of that, we end up with a 4+. That is the grade that I'm giving Baker Mayfield. 0 biases, 0 influences, play for play, watching the snap, watching the progression, watching the development of the play, where he could have gone to the ball, should have gone to the ball, all that stuff. And no, if a guy came open somewhere that he's not looking, it doesn't count. Like I'm not gonna ding this guy for not being psychic or having eyes surrounding his head, guys. It's just not gonna happen. So that's the grade. If it's good to you, then he did well. If it's not good enough, then he didn't do good enough. So that's how we're going to leave that. Hopefully that is acceptable. Stash and trash time. We only have time for James's stashes and trashes. So that's what we're going to do here. James's stash, Zyon McCollum. I second that big time as cornerback number 2. James is saying that even after Jamel Dean returns, Zyon McCollum should remain the starter. He has earned that spot with this play. And even though you shouldn't lose your starting job because of an injury, tell Alex Gonzalez that. Indianapolis Colts fans will know what I'm talking about. Zyon McCollum's play is superior to Jamel Dean's, according to James. More passes defense, more tackles, more forced fumbles, more tackles for loss. He's had as many pass breakups against the Falcons as Jamel Dean had all season. Look, Zyon McCollum's college coach said on this very show that it would take a little while for him to get comfortable, get his legs under him at the NFL level, and it appears that is what's happening and everything is starting to click. I can second that because I interviewed the dude, and that's exactly what he told us. Not calling him a Pro Bowler or anything like that, but the defense is better off and the Bucs have a better chance to win when Zyon McCollum is on the field right now compared to Jamel Dean. So that is James's stash. The trash is Evans' game or Godwin's game. Chris Godwin finished with 11 targets, which is great, versus Mike Evans, who finished with 6, who's not as great. Yes, pass attempts per game are down compared to the last 3 years, but there's no reason why only one of those 2 players should dominate the target share while the other one is essentially left out of the game plan. The Falcons did a good job bracketing Evans, and A.J. Terrell did a good job on him most of the game, but there were opportunities and the ball went elsewhere. And I just got done breaking down some of those opportunities. Again, the drag route on the sack, Baker's eyes are to the right, Mike Evans is open to the left. I'm not going to ding him on that, but there were other opportunities that Mike Evans was open for, wide open for, had opportunities for, and Baker Mayfield simply did not get him the ball. Whether it was by design, whether it was by Baker's decision, didn't give him the ball. But if he's looking at him, like if you're looking at the dude and he's open, you got to give him the ball, man. Happened last week in a reverse. Godwin had 3 targets. Evans had 12, and it's been a running theme all season long. Both of these guys are good. Both of these guys can eat. James says he realizes at this point it probably isn't going to change. I'm pretty much on the same boat, but it needs to. Don't sacrifice the opportunity to get one of your best players involved by only getting one of them involved. Use both of these guys equally as much as possible, but either way, you need to be feeding these guys the ball. Absolutely agree with James. Like everything that he said. Did we like everything that Todd Bowles had to say in his Monday press conference? Talking about Todd coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Whenever the game clock stops, it's time to order in with DoorDash. Why root for your favorite team on an empty stomach? You wouldn't do it in the stadium. Don't do it at home. Order on DoorDash now and save on your football watch party favorites. You can get pizza, wings, sodas, burgers, all on DoorDash and get it all delivered without missing the game. Speaking of wings, I wanted wings for Monday Night Football, so I ordered from It's Just Wings. It's a very creative name. I love it. It's Just Wings here in Winchester, Virginia. Got my order. It is sitting right here. As soon as I'm done recording this, I'm going to flip on Monday Night Football. I'm going to hammer some wings while I edit this episode. Get prepared for game day and stock up. Even if you order before kickoff, it'll be there in time. If you order right before kickoff, it'll get there in time. If you order by halftime, you'll be able to munch on that stuff during the mid-third quarter to early fourth quarter. Get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order after you download the DoorDash app and enter the promo code LOCKED23. Don't forget that promo code LOCKED23 for 50% off up to a $10 value on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and spend $15 or more. Subject to change. Terms apply. Rounding off this episode, talking about Todd. Todd Bowles met with the media on Monday, as he always does after games, and it's always a little bit better when it's coming after wins. He was asked why there were only 9 players on the field when Atlanta Falcons running back Bijan Robinson scored. Todd Bowles said, quote, Will Golston got hurt a little bit before that, and it did not get back to the coaches in time, so that happened with one, and then we had someone come off the field on the other one, end quote. Here is what I'm going to say. Look, I don't expect Todd Bowles to get up there and just say, this guy messed up, that guy messed up. It was terrible. But the truth of the matter is, guys, there's some dudes on the sideline there that messed up, and they messed up pretty bad. I promise you this. There is not one person whose job it is to make sure that there are 11 dudes on the field. There's not one person whose job it is to make sure that there are the right amount of people on the field. Like, do you see the amount of headsets that are on an NFL sideline? There's a reason. The reason for all those headsets is all those people need to be on the same page with what is happening on the field. And the reason they need to be on the same page is because they all have a role. There are people on the sideline. There are people up in the booth. There are people all over an NFL stadium. I can't tell you exactly where the Buccaneers station theirs, but none of this is a single point of failure. Like, there is no time Will Golston steps off the field because he's hurt. And, well, it's up to Will to go tell the coach, hey, I'm hurt, I can't go in. And now that one coach has to make sure a replacement comes in. No, like, there's a defensive line coach, there are assistant coaches, there are quality control coaches, there's medical staff, there's coordinators. I mean, there are so many people involved in making sure that there are 11 people on the field at all times. It is amazing that these things happen as often as they do, to be quite honest with you, because there are too many checks and balances in place for something like this to happen. I promise you, somebody or somebody's got their butts chewed for that happening. So good on Todd Bowles for the answer, because I totally get it. You're not going to throw your guy under the bus. But I promise you guys, there are multiple people who are supposed to not let that happen. And I doubt they let it happen again, because you get your butt chewed for that one time. You pretty much don't want to have that ever happen. Again, next question on why he showed more emotion than usual on the sidelines this Sunday compared to other games. Todd Bowles said, quote, it's playoff time. We have to go. High-level game, high-level emotions, end quote. Here's my thing about emotion. And, you know, every coach is different, right? Every coach has their style. And the thing I will always say about leadership styles is never be fake. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm about to say, I believe in, but I'm also going to say, first and foremost, never be fake. Because if you're fake, people know it. And your players are going to know it. Your coaches are going to know it. Everybody's going to know it. So don't go out there and be fake. But there is a school of thought amongst NFL coaches, NBA coaches, leadership just in general, that emotion is bad. That showing emotion is bad. The showing emotion shows instability. It shows the tendency to panic. It shows chaos. It shows all these things. Here's what I will tell you. They're just like everything else in life. There is a too far left limit and a too far right limit. And no, I'm not talking about right and left the way we always talk about right and left. I'm just giving an example. There is a such thing as too much energy. Okay, I'll give you that. All right. But there's also such thing as not enough energy. And some of these NFL head coaches, I don't know their names, but some of these NFL head coaches are, you look at them on the sideline and think they don't even like football. Like, you may not like your job all the time because these dudes work 90 hours a week. It's grueling. It's unhealthy. They're never sleeping. They're never with their families. And if you're getting your butt kicked on top of it and everybody's talking about what you want, they want you fired and all this other stuff, it kind of makes it hard to deal with, right? But at least in the game, like when we're at the game, right? We're not talking about practice. We're not talking about practice. We're talking about the game. At least when it's game time, that should be fun time. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be honest with you guys. Sometimes we roll up to do these shows and I'm like, bro, I am tired. It's not that I don't love y'all. It's not that I don't love Locked On Bucs. It's just sometimes I'm tired, man. We work a lot. We watch a lot of tape. We write a lot of articles. Like, for this Baker Mayfield thing, I know there's already comments down here. There's like, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about. This dude's a Baker hater. This dude's a Baker homer. Y'all don't even know how many hours I spent breaking down that Baker Mayfield tape just for someone who didn't watch the Baker Mayfield tape to go, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It's part of the job. So you get it. But when it's time to turn on the camera, like right now I'm talking to you, this is fun. The passion comes back. When I go to the stadium and I check in and I see the players warming up and I see the fans excited in the stands, it's fun. That's the time you tune in. You tap into the fun because you need to hold on to that in order to make the sometimes grueling part of the job better. Some coaches don't show that side of it. And I think it bleeds down to the players. The players need to understand that it's okay to show passion in this game. It's okay to have feelings about this game because that's what this game is all about. Again, not going to say names, but just because it kind of came up, it's something that I've thought about quite often. I think more coaches should show some of that emotion. But again, if it's not in your nature, it's not in your nature. Don't go out there trying to be fake. Don't go out there trying to fake the funk just because you think your guys want it. You know what I mean? If you don't have it in you, you don't have it in you. It is what it is. What it also is going to be Wednesday. And Evan Klosky is going to be back with James Yarcho. WTSP Wednesday coming. In the meantime, if you've got questions or comments, leave them in the YouTube comments section. Hit James up by texting him. Go to joinsubtext.com/lockedonbucs. Or you can always come through for the next episode and see if you can catch us in the live chat. Until we speak again, please be safe, be kind, fire the cannons. We'll see you next time for another episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.